Hey, thanks for joining me. Okay, so this is a weird one. This is something different. I was recording a video for the comic book you're seeing right in front of you. And while I was doing the video, I just got it in my head to just get out a pen and start like defacing and fooling around and farting around just for fun on top of the art on the actual comic itself. And I know there's some people that are like, for some reason, going to be like, no, don't deface your comics. You're ruining it. Don't worry. These comics are not worth anything. You can find them in a quarter bin. They're garbage anyway. But I just thought I'd have some fun just doodling around on them, doing some juvenile stuff. There is a specific point towards the midsection to end of this. There is a specific thing that I wanted to try. I was talking about it in the original video when I was reviewing these things. And I was making a point about this image that Liefeld drew of this big, huge character in a double-page spread where the face was the only thing shadowed in. And I was talking how the look, see, that's one of the things I did that I thought was hilarious because I'm just a 12-year-old child. But there was this whole section where Liefeld had this giant figure and the face was the only thing shadowed in. And I'm like, he needed to shadow the whole figure in. So I well, if I just start doodling around and screwing around with these pens on the actual pages, I could actually just blacken parts of the figure in and see if it would work. So that was my original intention. After I got done making the video, I did a live stream and I just started like screwing around with this stuff. And I'm like, well, I should just save the live stream and turn it into a video. More content, right? This one, I really felt like for a double page spread that Liefeld really kind of like didn't bother to put in the effort to render the figure. And so I'm just screwing around. I'm not saying that this is making it better. This is more on this one and this particular one. This is me just exploring just to see what I could do if I just started inking over these figures with these pens. And what I discovered, and it makes sense, is that this glossy paper does not take the ink from these pens very well. The ink doesn't dry into it very fast at all. It stays wet and like a very wet, glossy ink sitting right on top of the pages, and it doesn't take the lines very well. So it's not like it's I'm not trying to say that this makes it better, and I'm not thinking that the ink lines look good, but I feel like this figure needed to have some more heavy shadows and rendering. So again, in the spirit of just screwing around, just having fun, I just started seeing what I could do with it. Just goofing around. But then, like I said, because the ink doesn't stick on these pages very well, I got to a certain point where I had to jump around because I needed to let the ink dry. So I would jump to a different part of the book. So again, I felt like this figure, it was too lightly rendered. The colorist, as is the case with a lot of Liefeld's books, is doing most of the heavy lifting, honestly. And, I didn't mind the double page spread idea of what was going on here. I mean, the basic pose and what the characters were doing, how the figures were positioned. It's all fine. I just felt like it needed some more weight in terms of shadows. So that's what I was trying to do here. But I was getting a little bit, like, it was fun. I'm just goofing around, but discovering that these lines don't come down on the page very well and that the ink doesn't dry, it made it difficult. So here, I'm going to eventually just skip over to a different part of the book and start doing the one that I actually really felt like was the one that needed to be like demonstrated as like, okay, we need to shadow in this thing and see what it looks like. But, adding some shadows to this figure, I think it gave it a little bit more weight, a little bit more drama, maybe. I understand. I'm not a professional artist, and this is not saying that this makes it necessarily better. Again, see, I'm just kind of showing people on the live stream how the ink just is very wet still after letting it sit on these pages for a minute. So, but yeah, I'm not saying this is any better. It's just kind of an experiment. It's a combination of an experiment just to see what happens and just me fooling around just for fun, just to see what would happen. But yeah, I had to bust out a different book. Drawing more nipples on figures because I'm a perpetual 12-year-old boy. There is some parts, like this face here, when I got out this Micron pen, the ink from this Micron pen, it goes down and it actually goes on and stays pretty dry pretty fast. And in a way, you almost couldn't tell the difference from the lines I put down on top of the page itself, as opposed to like what was actually done on the original artwork and then printed. Like, it went down so solid, it almost looked like that was actually part of the drawing. Like, I think that if you were to show this to a person, they weren't familiar with the art originally, they may not even recognize the difference in the art from some of these dumb lines that I put down. Again, I was just like, well, what can I do to this? Well, let me just fart around and see what these lines, how it will go down. And then I was like, the face above it has no shadows on it. So eventually I get to a point here where I start adding shadows onto the part of the figure on the face above it, just to see if it'll kind of match. I got out a heavier line ink tool here to make some thicker lines. I'm like, at a glance, a person might not know that that wasn't what the original artwork looked like in the first place. And then, here I go. I was trying to just match the shadows a little bit so they look a little bit more uniform from the panel 1 and panel 2, just to see what I could do. And the more I did it, the more I was like, oh, I should just go through and just deface every figure in this entire book. But, I didn't have that much time. I'm not that dedicated to fucking up a comic book. But it does kind of make me giggle a little bit inside, knowing there's some people out there looking at this going, you're ruining the comic. I'm like, you can't ruin these. These are stupid. These are not worth anything. So who cares? This made these comics have more value to me by doing this, because it made them fun. It made me have some kind of like joy out of these things that I didn't get from actually reading the book. They just keep noodling away at it just to see what can happen. I think I basically get done here pretty quick. I'm like, okay. So now this is the figure. If you see, you can tell the face on the upper figure. That is the only part of this giant double-page spread figure that had a shadow on it. And when I was looking at this, when I did the review, I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. The character even has a giant moon behind him. So I'm like, this is what I originally was like, I was definitely going to jump in here and do this. Now, I don't do digital art. You could say I could scan this or find an image online and digitally do this and not fuck up my comic. But again, I don't do digital art. I don't have all those tools. That's one. And two, like I said, these comics are junk anyway. They're not worth anything, so I don't care. But I thought, like, I'm going to just, like, Liefeld filled in the face and heavily shadowed the face, but left the rest of the body completely open. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just fill in certain parts of this and see if we can't kind of match the intention of where the shadows are at and kind of like backlighting from the moon behind the guy. And let's just see if we can make it look quote unquote better, maybe. Again, I was struggling with the fact that the ink is very wet and goes on here and it doesn't dry. And if I wasn't careful, I'd smear it and streak it and put fingerprints all over the place. So kind of had to jump around. But I feel like shading in not the entire figure, like we're not making it a complete silhouette. We're not completely blackening in the figure, but giving it a much stronger, heavy shadow to match the rest of it once it's completely done, because I've only got the upper body done here. But I eventually kind of get the shadows done on every part of the figure. And some parts I'm just trying to match the texture that he already has laid out. Just trying to play around and see if we can make it make a little bit more visual sense. While at the same time, maybe making some people mad that I'm defacing their precious Rob Liefeld comic. But I just keep noodling away at it. Eventually, at a point here, I do set this aside to let the ink dry and go back, I think, to the other one. Because, I didn't want to start smearing ink all over the place. And then it was kind of hard, kind of like trying to track certain parts of the anatomy and like what would actually make sense. To be honest, like I was doing this for fun, just goofing around, but it was a little bit harder than I thought it would be. Because, you know, when you ink like this, like any kind of inking, that's very permanent. Once you put that line down, you're done. There's no backing it out. There's no going back. And again, I don't care if I screwed it up, but, you know, I wanted to get it as accurate as I could. So, you know, there's a little bit of like hesitation here and there. I'm like, what should I do? I can't back it out. I can't undo this. And some parts I thought that I would leave in the, kind of in the light. I'm like, nope, I'm actually just going to shade this whole thing in. Let's just keep working on it. And then I get to the fuzzy parts a little. I don't know who this character is. I don't know if he's some new character created for the book. Super not interesting, but I'm also super not interested in the Hawk and Dove characters in the slightest either way. So who cares who this character is? But I don't know. He's got big fuzzy things hanging off his boots. It's a little silly, but you know, a little bit of shadows on those to give him a little bit more three-dimensional kind of form. Yeah. And then, of course, I couldn't help but giggle at that foot that's stuck out there on the edge of the roof, and it's not even sitting on it. It's literally hovering above the edge of the building there. It's like, okay, you couldn't even make the foot touch the ground. I could sit here and bitch about all these ridiculous, like, drawing elements, but I did that in the entire video anyway. So, yeah, again, I did this. This is done during a live stream, so I was talking to people as I did this, so I bring it up close and show people. And then I'm, again, jumping back to the other figure. I needed to let some of the ink dry on the one I was just doing. And this one, it was still wet. I was touching it, and you kind of see it reflect in the light, the ink is still wet. Normally on any kind of regular piece of drawing paper, this stuff is already dried after just a minute or two when it kind of pools up a little bit, but not on this glossy paper. I'm like, all right, well, let's just keep going. I wanted to give the legs some heavier shadows underneath the body. The idea is that it pushes the legs into the background. It pushes them back into like a shadow, a silhouette shape, and helps the face and his upper body, his shoulders and his arms come forward. That's the idea. And again, the colorist is the one doing all the heavy lifting with the making these figures and forms kind of look interesting. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of Liefeld's current work. I don't think anyone here would be surprised to hear that if you watch my channel. You know that I got a lot of critiques on his current work. I will still go back and look at his older work and still think it looks good. Oh, yeah, had to go back to that stupid face. I think it looks so funny, that goofball freaking face. Man, it makes me laugh. Then I got back to this one. I was getting close to being done, and I needed to throw some shadows on that gun. Or on both of them, actually. I was like, well, I can't leave these things, you know, in the bright light. There needs to be some shadows. So just kind of some basic, you know, gives it just some weight and three-dimensional kind of look to it, at least. That's what I was hoping that it does. So got to get the gun, and then I think I next work on the forearm. Well, I eventually get to the forearm and the hand, working on the character's left hand there. Yeah, here we go. I kind of like the way that some of these shadows on this fist ended up looking to give it a little bit more solid foundation. It just kind of, to my eye, kind of helped give it a little bit more, it looks a little bit more solid to me. Again, I understand. I'm not a professional artist. No one's going to hire me for shit. I get it. I understand. This is just a goofball experiment for fun. And I was basically getting done here. I was kind of like, I don't know what more I can do. I feel like what I did makes sense and works. So I don't know. I like the way it kind of come out. Again, it's not perfect, but it works for me. And it was just a fun little experiment. So that's all I've got for this one. Thanks for joining me. It's just a dumb little thing. And I just thought I'd share it. So yeah, stupid little experiment on my part. That's all I've got. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. See you next time.